My name is Tyler Royke. I'm here with my co-host Jimmy Doolin. You're listening to ABC Agent Broker Conversations, where we talk all things real estate. And I'm excited for this conversation, Jimmy. But what's new in your world? How are you doing?
It's cold in Indiana again. I mean, we got warm, now we're cold. I'm really, really, really over this cold thing. So I am leaving to go down to Jacksonville later this week. Our son has to move, so I'll be in sunny Florida here by end of the week. So that will take care of this coldness. But yeah, it's like 30 some degrees after we just got through the deluge of rain in the Midwest and all the flooding. I went down to my in-laws this weekend, and I bet I drove past 1,000 farm acres that were underwater in total. I bet I drove easily 1,000, maybe more. It was unbelievable. Sometimes driving down the interstate, actually, at one point in time, I looked, and it was as far as the eye could see was just what used to be beautiful fields were now just water.
That's wild.
It is wild. So, unfortunately, I know that there were many lives lost in the Midwest and through this rain, but um, it, it, I mean, there's just so much water. And now today, take the water and then throw in, I don't know, 30, 40s degree weather, and it's cold and wet right now. So anyway, I'm glad to be inside where it's warm and I'm safe. So I am excited about today as well. And by the way, I'm also super excited that you know we were able to get someone to help my kind of my second mom is what I call her. She helped raise me, but that was pretty cool that I was able to text you in Texas, and your brother was in the right location to geographically to help with my referral. So thank you for that. I'm sure that'll work out great for all involved.
Yeah, I'm always glad to make a good connection. I got a pretty solid group around the map, so happy to help.
Yes, I see that from time to time on one of those work chats you and I are in. That you've got a lot of people in a lot of places. But today, speaking of a lot of people in a lot of places, today is a topic that allows for folks like you and I, prime example, to connect and grow together. And I think Leo said it best when we were in Dallas, and he said multiplication, not division, right?
Exactly.
So co-sponsorship is coming to an EXP near you. Matter of fact, it's coming to all EXPs, and unless you're
That's
some,
going to confuse some people because anytime someone tells me they're looking for their nearest EXP office, I have to like walk them back how we actually work.
right, but this co-sponsorship is just, I mean, I see lots of uses for it. I'll be curious to hear yours as well. But why don't we first dive into just an explanation of what it is? You
Okay,
want you want me to start? You want to start?
whatever you prefer, I'm ready.
All right. Well, so I'll give my version, then you can add, amend, change, edit, etc. Co-sponsorship, in its purest sense, is allowing a person who might have multiple relationships or have a single relationship, but geographically not near them. So what it's allowing someone to do is pull the best of two folks into their support system so that they can get the support they need. A great example is I'm in Indiana, and Tyler, you're in Texas. So a great example would be I have somebody that I've known for 30 years, great friend. They're in Texas, and they want to get into real estate, and they call me and say, "Hey, Jimmy, I know that you're with EXP, and I can join you. I've known you forever, so I absolutely want to join you, and I'm going to be down here in Dallas, Texas." Instead of just me saying, "Wonderful, I'll be happy to sponsor you," but I really don't know anything about the Texas market. I don't know how their forms work. I don't know their policies and procedures. Heck, I don't know if they're a title state or a lawyer state for closings. I don't know all these various things. Instead of being in that position, I get a hold of somebody like Tyler and I say, hey, Tyler, will you co-sponsor this particular friend of mine? And if Tyler's inclined, then what happens at that? Well, that's the gist of it. That's the reasoning. That's an application. Did I miss something?
No, that was pretty spot on. I mean, geographic, that's one example. It doesn't necessarily have to be geographic specific, but I mean, just the idea is that someone coming on board has the ability, if they have two different people that could be contributing value. I mean, usually it's going to be a situation where they have a relationship with one person, and then there's someone else that they see being pivotal in them actually coming on board and getting like the full alignment that they would want and need to excel and progress and reach their goals ultimately. So that's a situation where you can bring in that second person who's that expert in that lane or niche or thing that you're looking to learn more of, and you can still be aligned with that person you have that close connection relationship with, and then also bring in the expert to bring that added value.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, it could be geographic. It could be, like you said, a niche market that somebody's an expert in. It could just simply be that two's better than one if in a particular case. So it could be for a whole variety of reasons. What it can't be, because there are some stipulations of things it can't be. It can't be someone in my seven lines of upline or downline. So it can't be somebody that's in my group because I can't double dip. In other words, I can't put myself in two places to receive income twice on the same transaction. So that's the primary can't. Is there anything else that we're missing on that?
Yeah, that's the big one. So, I can't be any overlap in organizations. So it has to be two completely different organizations because the co-sponsor is effectively getting inserted into the organization, the primary sponsor on that particular agent that's coming on board. And so, as long as there's no overlap there, it will work. If there is any overlap, it won't even get accepted. It's automatically going to get kicked out when requested, if that were the case.
So, okay, so we know what it can, and we know that the cans are pretty big. Although we've given two examples, it can be for a whole myriad of reasons why somebody would want to do this. I'm talking to somebody in another country, and so my inclination immediately was, well, if I can get somebody in another country and get them with a co-sponsor in that country. Because I don't speak the language. I certainly don't know how they transact real estate transactions in Germany, where this particular individual is. So to me, that became a huge, huge opportunity in that particular scenario. So what is it then? Well, what it is it's an opportunity for two parties to support an agent that each bring maybe different talents or different skills or geographical locations, et cetera, to the table. And without there being division of proceeds, instead really creating more of a multiplication as described. So let's call me the sponsor, and Tyler, let's call you the co-sponsor. And I've got my buddy, Joe. And Joe lives there in Texas. And the same example I gave. Joe lives in Texas. I've known him my whole life. And now he wants to get into real estate in Texas. So I become his sponsor. Tyler becomes his co-sponsor. I get the FLQA. And for those that are unfamiliar, frontline qualifying agent. So in other words, he is in my front line. But instead of him being my number two, it goes through Tyler. And so Tyler instead of him being my number one, I get the qualification number. So if he produces, he is in my front line. But the revenue goes through Tyler before it goes to me. In other words, it just sidetracks off to the side. Tyler earns revenue for his participation and his contribution into Joe's success. But then it doesn't go up Tyler's upline. It goes up my upline. So it goes back over to me, and then it goes up through me. What did I miss?
Yeah, I think you we're correct in all that as far as the difference between. I mean, yeah, the co-sponsor gets the whole downline. I mean, both get the whole downline. The primary sponsor's upline sees the upside, and then the primary gets the FLQA, and the co-sponsor gets the tier 1 revenue share, including the fast start bonus, which means you get paid out more on year 1. So that tier 1 benefit goes to the co-sponsor, but the FLQA goes to the primary sponsor and the stock.
And the fact that the agent Joe, in this case, instead of him being 1 for me, he's a 2. So I actually get paid annually. I have more opportunity because level 2 it pays out a higher level than level 1. So I have an opportunity to earn a little bit more in duration for his entire EXP term and relationship. So you get the bonus pool. So you have an opportunity to earn that substantial bonus, which is great. That's, takes that first year total to $4,000, which is certainly a good number. But instead of my number being 1,400, it goes to 1,600, and I have that potential forever.
Yep.
What am I missing? Like, what's wrong with this? Why in the world would this not be wildly popular?
So the co-sponsor, the primary sponsors for going 1 tier, in the whole organization, essentially, right? Because you're inserting the co-sponsor in that situation. So there's 1 less tier you could get paid out on if someone's going to build a large organization, which not everyone will obviously seize that opportunity. But
say that again. Fill me in on that, please. I miss out on what now?
Well, since you're inserting the co-sponsor on tier 1, you don't have tier 1. I mean, you have 6 of the 7 tiers you would get paid out on. So
right, because I'm not earning on your production as so instead of 7 levels, I get 6 levels.
Correct.
Okay.
The co-sponsor, the downside on that side of things is for their upline. Their upline doesn't get any of it for anyone who's inserted as a co-sponsor. That doesn't necessarily play as much into the actual co-sponsor as their senior network of partners. I think that's the, for some big leaders, that might be, point of it not being the most popular. I think probably the biggest thing for, I think, most people is, does this being on the table confuse them? So I think, like, with that in mind, like, I think it's a tool. I see it as a tool. I don't see it as being something that would apply or should apply to every situation. Is everyone going to join with a co-sponsor? I don't think that should be the conversation. I think if it's a tool that's needed, if someone is seeking that out, that's where that would be utilized. But I don't see it being a scenario where, okay, now you're coming on board with EXP, who's your primary, who's your co-sponsor. I don't think that's going to be the case. And I think if it were the case, I think it would confuse a lot of people. It's like, because enough people already, don't understand what a sponsor is, and they kind of got to get filled in on that part. So I think for most people, if you're adding a secondary, it makes it that much more confusing. So for those, it's a necessary tool. We use it. If it's not a necessary tool, we don't need to add that complication into the conversation. That's my perspective as a growth leader here.
Yeah, definitely. It is not a need to do every deal this way, for sure, 100%. But there are some scenarios. I mean, I lost. I don't know that I lost this agent specifically because they were in a different marketplace, but I did lose 2 agents in another state. Would a co-sponsorship have helped? I think it probably would have, because there would have been a local person reaching out to them. Maybe so. And it was a scenario where it was somebody I went to high school with that I've known forever, and they were in another market and they up and left and went to a competitor. I don't know. They didn't leave because of what we did or didn't do. They left because they were promised a bunch of things at a different front end. So I'm not sure if it would have changed, but certainly would have been applicable. Um, I don't even know that, I don't know what this will end up. I mean, from my perspective, somebody like you, me, for you, this would be great because you've got a significant number of FLQAs. So I've got right now, I'm 5 FLQAs away from opening level 7. So I only need 5 more when I log into my EXP to get level 7. You already have level 7 open, don't you?
Yeah, I just don't have anyone on my level 7.
Right, and I don't either. So I can relate to that. But I guess my point is that when you've got FLQAs that exceed where your downline is going, then this is a great scenario because it creates additional revenue for you or for me that I'm not able to earn today. So it creates additional revenue while I'm trying to build my FLQAs. So, I mean, I would see it as a huge win. I know that I've already had some of the very, very big, is the biggest alpha, is that the 1,000 or the 2,000 plus?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So I've already had some alpha agents reach out to me asking if I was interested in being a co-sponsor in geographically where I'm located to help them if they have prospects for my area. And I've said absolutely. So, I mean, I look at it as I'm going to get compensated for helping another agent grow. And if that person had sponsored them and there was no co-sponsorship, I still would have helped that agent just because it's the right thing to do and I want them to be successful. So I still would have done it, but at least now there is a means of compensation, which I think is just, I just really applaud the creative thinking that put this program together.
Yeah, I think it's a great it's cool that we can collaborate with other leaders for the bigger goal at hand, and instead of being in a situation where I think that's a great thing all around. I think there are some scenarios potentially where it could get misused. It's like, for instance, should we all be competing for that co-sponsor position? I don't know that that's like the intention with it. So, I think there could be a scenario where, when and if they see someone who's kind of misusing the program, I think that will probably, be on the radar and, get taken care of. But, I think all around, I think it's going to do a lot more good than otherwise, just with the collaboration that can now happen when it is a tool that can be utilized, which again, specific scenarios, geographic, and then also niche, I think are the two big ones. So, if you got someone that you're attracting and can get them plugged into a great local network like what you have in Indiana, I mean, you're going to be a phenomenal co-sponsor for anyone that's bringing in someone in Indiana if you can get them plugged into that local community that you've actually got. And then for someone else, it's I actually met crazy thing. I met the other day one of the first co-sponsored agents within EXP. And she had a case that was another like situation I feel like will be another, more common use case, which is she's a luxury agent. The person who attracted her is not a luxury agent. So for her, what actually got her over the edge was to bring in a co-sponsor who is one of the top luxury agents in the whole company. And now she's a part of her network, able to collaborate. The primary sponsor wins, the co-sponsor wins. We all win. She's fired up. But, that was a really cool to kind of hear her perspective on it as one of the actual like agents that is coming in with a co-sponsor.
So the next thing that comes to mind would be commercial, co-sponsoring with a commercial agent. Again, not my expertise. I'm not in the EXP commercial world. So and I've got a buddy who's going to be coming over for me to sponsor in commercial, and this would be a scenario where I could partner with somebody else so he could get those connections within EXP commercial.
Exactly. And I got connected recently with a farm and ranch agent who's a high producer at another firm. she's not open to talking with us unless I can convince her that we're not just for realty agents. But if I can find someone in our network who is a farm and ranch agent, or not even farm and ranch, just a land agent, deals with land, and get her connected, I know that will be the difference maker, because then she'll actually give us a look. And so I'm working on that this week, but that's just another scenario. So like, just those niches, geography. I mean, commercial, I think probably is going to be one of the more applicable ones for realty agents, because we're not commercial people, and commercial people don't really even speak our language. I mean, actually, we don't speak their language is usually the case. And so, but if we can collaborate with one of the top commercial people in our network and just make that introduction, like that's going to be the difference maker for a lot of people if they do have a relationship with someone in commercial.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I could see. I didn't realize that there had already been some of these completed. So when you shared that, I was unfamiliar that it had already started.
There's I don't know if completed is the right word or not, but it will happen. It is happening.
Gotcha.
In the process, maybe is probably the better way to say it.
I see. They've already identified they're going to do this whenever because and it wouldn't have surprised me if they did try a few in advance. I know that the formal launch is the beginning of next month, but I'm sure that they put a few of these through the system where it made sense to try them, make sure everything worked. The system, the back behind the scenes stuff is working, the accounting, how it shows up on your app and everything, because that's all going to be very different from whatever.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, overall, I think it is a game changer, because with us it's multiplication. Any other situation I've seen it's division. So for us, we're just looking at how we can actually grow, collaborate, and all win, which is something I'm ecstatic about. And it's a great opportunity for those that want to collaborate with anyone in our incredible network and haven't already done so.
Right. So I'm all booked for Dallas. So I'm going to be back down in the free state of Texas soon. Looking forward to that, connecting.
Yeah, that's going to be great. It's always a good time to connect in Texas.
I may have to get a license there. I seem to be there frequently. I guess different brands take you different places frequently, because I did spend a decent amount of time in Texas. I was the speaker at the REMAX statewide broker owner meetings. I was their speaker twice. And a little known fact, my 25-year-old son was actually a speaker there when he was like 9 years old. He took the stage and gave a presentation, which I think it has forever scarred him, because he was absolutely terrified. But he did it. I think he was around 9 or so. It was sixth grade, whatever that is. I remember that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's cool to get that experience. I guess maybe cool or not, depending on what the actual experience was for him. But to me, I think it's a cool thing.
I think he's probably he overcame it and did it. The regional director there in Texas, Dana Tuggle, she's a lovely lady, and she brought me in on a couple of occasions, and I asked if he could have the stage for just a couple minutes, and she agreed to let him put on a presentation. So he did a presentation on so the 2000. He said the line that I always remember is he called the economy his height. So it was post 2008. So he was born in 99. So I was right in there when I said he was 9 or so, because that's when he went, like 2010-ish. So he was 10, depending on when we went exactly, 10, maybe 11 years old. But I was speaking about the economy and how we had to make the adjustments with our brokerages in order to prevail and to get through these times. And my son talked about his economy being his height, and that he, in sixth grade, when he didn't make his AAU team, he had to pivot because he wasn't going to be tall enough and he wasn't going to be fast enough to be Michael Jordan. And so therefore he had to go try to be Tiger Woods or Rory McIlroy or whatever. He had to go to the golf, and he ended up playing Division I golf. And he wrote this beautiful presentation about making the adjustments when sometimes life doesn't go the way you want it to, and you've got to switch. And so he wrote this I don't know 10-minute, maybe 15-minute presentation on that. And I just remember my economy is my height.
That's I mean that's some wisdom there for the age. I would say I would have never thought of that. But I totally get the point.
It's pre Chat GBT, so he actually wrote this.
Yeah, right. Now, I mean, yeah, totally different now. How would you even know?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess you kind of got to assume that like everyone's using it, right?
So our market's up and going. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, if the organization is any indicator, that's what I see as well.
I mean, we are busy. And by the way, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you can reach through there and you want to pat me on the back or what, but yeah, I just saw, so, number one in Indiana team, but then now in the like 55th in all of EXP. So out of 5,343 teams.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool. Good job.
Man, the old guy still got a couple tricks up his sleeve.
Heck yeah.
It just gives me that reassurance that I'm not as old as I look yet. Like I still have some skills. So, and I even contributed. I just sold a condo for $3 million. So.
Oh wow! Heck yeah! Good job. Congrats.
So yeah, I mean, I've even contributed to our production as an organization. But yeah, I think my team's on track to do about 250 million this year.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Actually, I'd say, like, I mean, to me, and I feel like others that I've introduced to you, I don't think they would have guessed that you've been in real estate as long as you have. I mean, you don't look that old. I mean,
you know what? I like making fun of myself with all this gray hair and everything. I said to my wife, "What color's my hair?" I said, "My driver's license." They asked me what color my hair is, and I told them, "Well, I guess it's always been blonde or sandy colored." She's like, "Honey, your hair is gray." That was kind of a wake up call when that happened. You leave it to my wife. She is very direct. She is not near as kind and sweet as I am. She is much tougher. So, yeah, gray it is. So anyway, yeah, I enjoy laughing at myself. I think it makes my day go better. But yeah, I was pretty excited. I've 33 years in the business. And I think this last, I don't know, let's see here, I'm 54. So let's call it my last 20. My last 20 is going to be my roaring 20s. It's going to be the best 20 years of my career. I can feel it. There's just so much going on, and so many opportunities. I don't know. I keep getting so excited about all of the opportunities that are in front of us. And doing stuff like this with you. It's these are all new things, right? Getting out there and creating a podcast and consistently every week coming on here with you and sharing our stupidity, our strengths, our ignorance, our professionalism, whatever the case may be, whatever comes out of our mouth, and we're sharing a little bit of everything, good, bad, and ugly, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's fun. I look forward to it too. But yeah, and kind of what else in the world of real estate? There's a couple things on my mind. Did you have anything?
Well, go ahead, shoot away.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been interesting to see, like, so far in the year. I think we talked about recently, but just the consolidation, acquisitions. I think this week's it was Rocket made another acquisition with a lender, right, Mr. Cooper. Did you see that?
Yep, I did.
I didn't even know who they were until recently because they service our mortgage, and that's how I figured out who they were. But yeah, kind of interesting to see because it was recent with the Redfin deal, and now they're adding to it with the loan servicer. So just lots on the move still early in the year, and I think we're expecting there will probably be more consolidation and acquisitions in the year ahead from what we're hearing about. Right?
Do you think that has anything to do with the current state of the stock market? It wasn't Mr. Cooper. Was that a publicly traded company?
Was it? Let me see.
I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering if that has something to do with it, like that maybe their value was down because of stock. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like they are publicly traded, actually.
So I wonder if that kind of moved the needle because some of the values are down right now, obviously.
Well, their value's up. Their value is not down. It's kind of it's on the up. I mean, it's down today, but I mean, if you look at the chart, it's just been going up. So
we had our fireside chat on Friday, which we do every Friday at 9 a.m. In this is in the space live and in person. We usually get 30 to 50 people there, but this last week, one of the lenders spoke up and said that he was locked somebody at 5.6 something. I don't remember exactly where it was. Anyway, it was well under 6%. That was on Friday of last week. So I don't know where things are right now, but that was pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, with the tariffs news, I think, more the rates are expected to come down, or I know they did a little bit. I think the last week, right? But that's kind of the outlook here. But crazy. I mean, shoot, Friday was a crazy day in the public markets. Massive down day in the stock market with the on the back of the tariff news. And I mean, it's down more today. Very volatile, on that news. So
best thing to do is ignore it for a few days.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get super high on a high day and super low on a low day because your days are, I mean, you would just be up and down constantly.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yep. The other thing I was that was on my, I wanted to get your take on this because I saw a post recently, and not just a post. I actually had an L of sorts recently. I lost a team to a competitor that we were in conversations with, or I say competitor, a company that would consider themselves a competitor to us. So to be clear, what I mean. But I also saw a post by this company's CEO, which I may or may not name their name. I'll probably mention their name, actually, because I know their CEO. But anyway, he made a post that kind of shared, it was a breakdown of the top 10 brokerages by unit comparison. And I'm trying to look at what this was from Risk Media's report. So this should be accurate, assuming that they pulled the real numbers off of it. But it's kind of showing year over year growth as far as units, who's up, who's down. It's kind of interesting to see some, and I guess it makes sense that Compass is up year over year with, I guess,
acquisition of app properties.
Yeah, because they've been buying, app properties, and I think there's several others. So the biggest gainers on the top 10 list year over year, which all these companies are different sizes, but Compass, is on that list. And actually, this is not really in order, but who's up year over year? Because there's only 4 companies that are up. One's up on the agent count. So the ones that are up on both the volume and the agent count, or I'm sorry, the units and the agent count, are Compass, Real Brokerage, United Real Estate, and then LPT Realty. And LPT had the most growth year over year. So not to name names, but LPT is the company whose CEO posted this. But they're ranked at the bottom of the list as far as, they're 10 on the top 10 list by units, right? But they had the most year over year growth. They went from 13,000 to 36,000 units year over year. So 175% growth according to this. And then they went from 7,800 agents to 14,644. So 88% year over year growth, which is the most growth in both categories. Second on the agent growth was Real, 83% growth year over year. They closed 2024 with 22,000 agents, up from 12,000. But I wanted to get your feedback, like on what do you make of that? Because I've seen this thing with, you've got these cloud-based companies on the move, right? That's pretty staggering year over year growth. And what I'm wondering is, like, what is your take on that? Because I know some people will see that, and obviously that's like, okay, what are they doing? To grow like that in a market like this is one thought. But I know there's a thing where it's like, hey, someone who's kind of on the come up on their real estate journey, maybe it's like a team like, who I was connected with, that's kind of building a team, and maybe they see like, okay, this is like a place where I could be that big leader. I know that's probably a big appeal to someone who's on the come up like that. And then they're seeing the numbers, they're seeing the growth. Like, is there a valid case for someone to maybe latch onto that kind of opportunity? And also the other piece of it is, I know there's big incentives for the right people, like, as far as like, hey, we'll pay you this massive, whatever stock award or something. And maybe that's not on the table for everyone, but like for a leader that's at a certain phase in their life, do you think there's a valid case for like, it might actually make sense to run with something like that? Or do you think that maybe the risk far outweighs the potential award for someone like that?
Well, so, let's go back to my beginnings, and when I was evaluating the opportunity, at Remax, and evaluating the opportunity to go to the cloud base, right? So looking at EXP, looking at Real, those were the two main ones that I focused on. Now, I want strength, I want stability. And so when I was looking at that opportunity, ultimately what prevailed for me is that I believe that EXP was what Remax was in the brick and mortar high agent split business. When that was the cutting edge and that was the newest, they were the 800-pound gorilla. I always believed, from my joining there in 1991 until 2016, I thought they were the best brokerage there was in the industry. I didn't think anybody held a candle to us. And as a result of that, I could go into an appointment comfortably against any other brokerage with my tools and what I believe made us the best. Now, when I look at EXP and Real and LPT and Epic and any of these other brands, I now believe that I am with the 800-pound gorilla in this arena. There is a glass ceiling. There is a place. And I think that you've been here long enough. You remember when onboarding an agent was a multi-day or multi-week process. That wasn't because it was hard to onboard an agent or because there was so much that you had to do with EXP that you didn't have to do at other firms. That was because the growth, we broke through a ceiling and we broke the system, right? The model was built at a time to accommodate the growth trajectory, and then the trajectory broke the model. And so then you had to go back through. They made adjustments on the compensation, that's the 2.0. They made adjustments on the onboarding process. They've gone back and they've put in the rating systems, the net promoter scores, the glass doors, all of these various things that are rating us so that we can continue to make sure as we grow and prosper that we're meeting the needs. So I would simply say that, yeah, there's certainly other opportunities that are going to present themselves, and they're going to continue to present themselves. Usually the person who gets out of the gate and does it and becomes the Goliath, there's a long way from 22,000. If we look at next in class with Real, there's a long way from 22,000 to 88 or 90 or whatever exactly our number is. And growing those numbers, I think, is going to be significantly harder because you're going to break the system multiple times. It's been reported right now that Real is paying out about 65 cents of every dollar. Well, the model doesn't work when you pay out 65 cents. So at some point in time, they're going to change that. We've already seen their CEO step down for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm not privy to it, but there is going to be change there, just as EXP had to make changes and continues to have to make changes in order to go. So I think that our path is more about what we do than it is about what the others don't do or do, because ultimately, if EXP will, and one of their core values is to be agile, if they'll continue to be agile and reflect and listen and make adjustments as necessary, there's nothing to stand in their way to achieve, that next tier of 300,000. But my guess is that right now our infrastructure is built to take us to 250, 300, and then we'll probably have to break it, and we'll have to make some changes to go that next lead. So yeah, I think a lot of this is based on a lot of this is on the come, right?
On the come up.
Do you want to, I think people think, ooh, it's shiny and new. There's only 22,000. If it goes to 80 or 90,000 while I'm there, then the chances are I can be a part of that growth. But I've met people at EXP who sat on the sidelines and watched this company go from 2,000 or 3,000 to 90,000 in a very short window, and they didn't participate in that growth. The growth doesn't happen without your participation. You're going to have to do something to be rewarded for the opportunity, regardless of what company it is. So I look at the tools, the stability, the fact that we have no debt, the fact that we're not owned by Wall Street, the fact that the company is primarily owned by its agents and leadership, not by outside. I look at these things and that's the trajectory of an organization, right? It's based on the people that are involved in it and that own it. And man, we far and away are in a better position there financially than the other organizations that you've mentioned.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. Yeah, it was on my mind because of some recent conversations I've had. One was with a team that ended up going that way, and then just kind of me in the process getting some more insight on what actually happens in those scenarios. Because the reality is, well, that, and then also, just like the numbers show what the numbers show. It's like when you see kind of who's growing year over year, it's like, it's undeniable if someone's growing like that. But, to me, the bigger thing and the thing I think not everyone who's your average agent would necessarily be privy to is, when you have a big leader who comes into the organization and contributes massively to a growth on, one of these companies that's up and coming, usually it's not a fair deal they're getting. Like, they're getting a way better deal in terms of like some of the upside and opportunity that they're given to be one of those leaders that's on the come up that they're trying to build something around. And so that's just some insight I got. It's like, and kind of, the basis of my question is like, it's like, hey, for that person, it's like, they're weighing the cost benefits, maybe they want to take that risk and see like, okay, well, they're giving me this, they're giving me, all these shares, will that pay off versus, going with somewhere stable that we know for a fact already has this all built out and has that solid foundation. But anyway, it kind of got me an insight of like, hey, that's a big part of how a company like that actually grows is they're basically buying people, like, at least some of the key leaders that they're bringing in, they're buying them with this disproportionately large upside that they're, giving them the opportunity to tap into. But at what point can you keep growing without that? Like, you've got to have something solid built out. And that's just something that, like it just, to me, it's an interesting thing. It's like, hey, when you can't do when you get to a point where maybe you do the, IPO, when you get past that phase, it's like, okay, how do you keep growing if those deals are no longer on the table to bring the big players into the organization? Is the foundation, is the structure, is the opportunity big enough to keep attracting people beyond that point? Because I think that's probably a big part of that growth is, hey, who you were able to buy in and bring in, early on, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that the reality is that all of the cloud-based models should continue to experience growth. And I think in general, the models that are from yesteryear will continue to be struggled going forward. And so all of these brands, EXP, Real, LPT, Epic, etc., they probably all experience some growth. Is it enough growth to get over where these promises turn into something that is monetarily beneficial to the agent? I don't know. I mean, there are, and you know these people as well as I do, there are people who have been chasing that opportunity. They went to EXP, then they went to Real, and then they went to Epic or LPT, or what I mean. They've been to all of these trying to be on the one where they're on the curve and they strike it rich. True or not, or happen or not happen, heck, I have no idea if it does for them. I don't, I suppose I've just always looked for the stable brand, the one that was there, that was tried and true. And then I've looked for the brand that provided the platform that gave me the best opportunity to grow, not where they gave me the best free opportunity, if you will. I've not gone somewhere in hopes that maybe, just maybe, this will happen, and as a result of this, I'll become worth X number of dollars because of it. I've more looked for a place where I believe in the platform, and the platform allows me to grow, and that's why I came here, because I know this platform is solid. It's got solid leadership. It's got solid financials, and I don't need. My growth and my opportunity is going to be a result of my efforts on a platform that I believe in. I'm not relying on somebody else to one day call me and say, hey, guess what? We're going from 13 cents a share to $5, and now you just made $5 million, or whatever the numbers are. That's just not my. That's like taking my retirement, throwing it on a roulette table, and just hoping it hits the color I need it to hit in order to win. And that's just not my plan. My plan is to work steady, work hard. It always has been this. I've been in this 30 some years, and this is a stable platform. And also, I think one of the best things is you now have 9 agents per day returning to EXP. So
Yep.
A lot of those are the people that went out there and said, ooh, I'm going to put it on black and spend this thing. And when black didn't hit, they came back and said, okay, now I want steady.
Yeah. And something too that, you don't see when you see a chart like this, because if you just look at the chart, it shows that EXP didn't grow year over year. But what you don't see is that we actually did add more new agents year over year than any of these other companies on the chart. But it flushed out with the people that got out of the industry. So we added a substantial amount, but also equally as many got out of the industry. So, it looks like we didn't grow, but reality is we brought new and even very productive people in the organization, but the agent count number in and of itself doesn't reflect that.
You know what I know? Jimmy Dillon's going to add 500 people in his organization. And if EXP goes to 90,500, those 500 are mine. And if EXP goes from 80,000 to 75,000, or excuse me, 90,000 to 85,000, that still 500 of those people that came in this year are going to be on me. I'm going to do what I do. I'm not. It's a stable. You can see it in terms of where it's appearing, where the press is. You can see our leadership and what they're involved in. So I just get, my sense is that this is the 800-pound gorilla in this space. They've got a head start, which gives them more resources, which gives them more momentum. And our growth is going to, at 80,000, it's harder to grow to double than it is when you're at 2,000 or 20,000 or 5,000. I mean, it's just a much easier process. So we're going to experience this every, the industry turns over a third every year. So you've got 1.5 million agents, whatever it is exactly. You've got 500,000 that'll come into the business and 500,000 that'll go out of the business. And some of those will be us. And look, if we've got 90,000 and another firm has 2,000 or 10,000, proportionately, we're going to lose more agents than they are because our percentage of the overall is bigger. So therefore, we're going to have a bigger loss.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a math thing, and it's crazy, but you lose a lot of people at math. Beyond, if it's not 3% math, sometimes it's harder to follow, right?
Yeah. I feel steady. I feel good that I'm with the steady Eddie, if you will. I feel very good about it. I spent 33 years at one brand and felt really, really good about it. And now I've got, another 20 some years that I'll do here. And I don't think, I'm just not a guy who bounces around. So I think I'll end up with, I had 6 months at C21. So I think I'll end up, when I finally hang up my real estate hat, I will have had 3 locations, 3 brands, and that'll be it.
Yeah. I love it. And something that you might be interested to hear is I actually just, in kind of looking into this, I actually ran my rev share numbers through LPT's model. And what I found is 40 cents on the dollar. So same organization there for me personally would be about 40 cents on the dollar on the payout.
Wow. That I didn't know.
For me personally, I think it can vary depending on, who's where in your organization, but that's just based on, plugging in my line to theirs and, what it would pay out. Cause there's 2 different models there with the, 100% and then the split. And then, obviously the 100% doesn't pay out as much cause there's less flat fees being paid in, even if someone's, doing the most. But there's also a few things that I really didn't like about it from the standpoint of someone who is really focused on building revenue share and not production, which it doesn't really seem like that's not their ICP. Someone who's just focused on building rev share and not production that's not who they're expressing that they want to be aligned with. And I say that's because literally, if you pull up info on how I'll just read this to you. To encourage agents to focus on real estate sales versus recruiting and help agents reach 100% commission on real estate sales sooner, revenue shares to be applied to the cap first. So if I had in my organization there, the first 15,000 of my rev share would be applied to my cap first before I see $1 of it. And this is straight off of their website, by the way, or straight off of their flyer about how all this works. And then the other thing, to provide a level playing field for agents focused on real estate sales versus recruiting, agents are prohibited from offering anything of value for being named as a sponsor. So you can't add any added value to someone you're directly sponsoring that you wouldn't add to anyone in the company is basically another way that, I think of that when I read that.
Isn't that just implied that your experience brings that value to the table? My experience brings that value. How do you not add value?
Yeah, well, you can't offer anything of value. So basically, if it's something you're going to do for someone you're sponsoring, you have to be able to do it for anyone in the company who would want that thing. And here's the other one. And again, this is straight off of their site: to encourage agents to stay focused on real estate during starting their transition, agents cannot earn revenue share for their first 120 days. So basically, they're just saying like, hey, we have this revenue sharing model, but really we want you to focus on selling real estate. So, I mean, to me, that just like it alienates someone like me. It's like, I mean, I don't want my first 15 grand going to my cap when I'm not even intending on selling any houses. And I mean, literally they're saying it's like, hey, we don't want you to focus on this. So anyway, what I get at with that is, I could tell you, I don't like that personally, but for me, the other aspect is how do you keep growing if you're like, I don't know how many people would know this, but building an organization is hard enough as it is. So if you're creating an opportunity where even if you get that initial momentum, your first 15 grand has to go to the company before you see how many people are really, it's hard enough if that weren't the case, how many people are really going to focus and build something with it? And you need people to build something with it if this kind of model is going to work. Because otherwise it's just the big influencers. You might have a few of those, but does it see life past that? Because I can tell you with EXP, there's a ton of people fired up about building. And it's because they see that first check. In that scenario, you don't see the first check until you're clearing 15 grand.
Why not just not do rev share? If you don't like rev share, why not just
right?
Right? Why even offer it if you're putting so many hurdles in front of it? Listen, agents have to sell real estate. Their motivation to sell real estate is to make a living and pay their bills. I mean, if you look at the EXP model, only 11% of the agents are participating in revenue share at any kind of level. Like, so 89% of all the agents just sell real estate. So we already know that most are going to sell real estate. Most are not going to do rev share. So you don't need hurdles for rev share. What you need is rev share people like you, like me, who help grow the organization even when others are out selling real estate. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I talk to agents about coming on, knowing that 89% of them are going to sell real estate, guess what I talk about? Selling real estate. Because only 11% are concerned with rev share. Most are just going to sell real estate. So they want to know what makes this a great real estate company for their practice. So that's what we talk about.
And that seems to be a common theme, that I've seen with these other companies that, would consider themselves a competitor to EXP that have a revenue sharing model is like they intertwine the messaging with like, hey, we have this same opportunity, but it's bad and we don't want you to focus on it. To me, it's like, what's the message? What are we talking about?
I gotta get into that. Well, I think you touched on a subject at the tail end of this that we need to pick up where we left off next week, because that's pretty interesting. I was unaware of that, so you've brought some new stuff to me, and I will certainly dig into it. But I just don't understand. You don't need to purposely prevent people from participating in rev share when EXP's already shown you that basically 10% will and 90% won't. So
yeah. Exactly.
That's when you've unlocked the door and made it available. That's when even when an agent earns in their first 3 tiers, the minute they do one transaction, still most don't get excited about doing it because most are uncomfortable with the idea of asking another agent if they're interested in discussing EXP. So we already know most won't. Why make it hard for those that will? For that 10% that wants to earn their living growing a brokerage, why would you make it hard on them?
Yeah, because I mean, you're not going to have people do it. Like, even if you could get to a size, if you had the same size we had, like it would be a small fraction of those excited trying to build it because no one's seeing the initial wins. No one because here you have stories of people that get their first 500,000. That's not going to exist in that situation because it's going to be so hard to get there.
There'll be no alphas that would even begin to look at this. No betas would begin. I don't think anybody of any substance, even look, anybody who's in it would. Why would they? Even if you're a builder with 10 agents, right? That's that definition. Even if you're a builder, if you're earning an extra 10 or 15 grand a year, why would you give that up to a model that doesn't encourage it?
Yeah. And with the EXP too, it's like you get the fast start bonus. You can get $4,000 a year per person. You get the first few tiers unlocked. You get all the tiers unlocked if you're a producer. We don't have any of the you don't need a certain amount of productive agents. It's like we just make it easier to get your first wins in the table. And that excites people. That does make a difference when people are thinking of connecting a friend or colleague or whoever. So when you have that kind of momentum and opportunity, it's, and by the way, I didn't even look at the fast start bonus when I ran those numbers. If I factor that in, it definitely would be less than 40% on my same organization through that.
All right. Well, my friend, great conversation as always. Appreciate you getting on here with me and sharing your time and wisdom. For those out there watching, consider liking, sharing, commenting, questions. We'd love to hear your comments. We'd love to have your discussion. Challenge us. We're open to it. If you see that this is a win and you're at LPT and you think that this is a potential win, let us know why you see it as a win, because I'm not seeing it. I didn't do any deep research, but Tyler's a pretty smart guy. He doesn't see it as a big win. So we'd love to hear why you think it's a win if you're there. Matter of fact, I would encourage somebody from LPT, come on here and tell us where we're wrong. Wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Tell us why we're wrong, but I'll just say this. There's no way you're there if you're serious about building revenue share. Like there's got to be some other reason you're there.
Well, we would love to have someone prove us wrong and tell us all about it. So until next week, make it a great week. I'm Jimmy Doolin and my co-host Tyler Roike here with Agent Broker Conversations each and every week.